Welcome to today's edition, which is an interesting one about a young man aged 22 years old who has decided to move out of his father's house into his own grass-thatched hut. This hut is what will be referred to as a Simba according to Luo traditions. A son at some given point will move out of his father's house into his own Simba within the same compound. And just a bit of an intro, if you happen to walk into a Luo traditional compound or homestead for that matter, you'll be able to identify the sons' houses by just looking at their position in the compound. I talk about houses because we do not get so much of huts nowadays. Things have really changed, but if you do, it is a good indicator towards the economic status of that home. And so just a brief focus on the Luo traditional setup of a homestead. If you stand on the parent's door while facing the main entrance or facing the gate, on your right side, you'll be able to identify the first son's house or hut for that matter, and on the left, you'll identify the second son's hut, and so on and so forth, depending on the number of sons in that home. And so Regan, being a second-born son in this family, you can actually imagine where the position of his hut stands. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to feature a mud house that is grass thatched, and you're going to see how it is done, plus the owner is going to explain to us the process and how much it costed him. So karibu Sam.
So day one nilikata mamiti hizo za wall zilikuwa 4. Nilizibai zilikuwa 150 sana, nilibai 4. Sa hizo zingine pia hizo za roof zilikuwa msoso. Sa sijui nilizibai 15. Nilizibai 15
pieces. Okay. So Regan explains that for this grass thatched hut, he was able to use 4 main stems of wood or timber, if you like, as the main pillars on these corners that you see on this hut, and they each costed him 150 Kenyan shillings. And then aside from that, the main pillars for the roofing were 15 pieces that each costed 100 Kenyan shillings.
Sasa venye niliweka hivyo nikaitisha fundi akanipigia bei ya kujenga hiyo nyumba yote hivyo. Tukabageni na yeye na kwa bei. So then tukaanza kazi.
Okay.
So day one tulishimamisha tu nyumba. Sa mambo za nyasi nazo bado. Sa nilienda nikakata nyasi. Sa hiyo day nilikuwa naweka hizo nyasi, ndio nilikuwa naweka hizo matope hivyo.
This young man explains that this was a day's job. Creating the skeleton of the house and the skeleton on the roofing took him a day. After agreeing with the fundi, now they came on board. The fundi worked on the roof and him and his friends worked on the wall. Grass cost 2,500 Kenyan shillings. So day one mkasimamisha hizo miti kwanza. Na chini mulichimba? Kuna kuchimba? Kuweka poles? So ikachimbwa ikaekwa hiyo circumference yake?
Yote, then hizo pia ya roof yote.
Okay.
Sasa hizo za kando za kuweka nini matope.
So ikawa imesimama skeleton ya miti.
Hivyo.
Alafu the next day tu tena ndio mkaanza stories za matope na roof.
Hapana, the next day nilienda nyasi nikaziweka hapo store.
Okay.
So then nikaita fundi. Akaanza hiyo time anaweka huko juu na hiyo time pia tunatengeneza hapa chini hivi.
Okay. So and so this is the near final outcome of Regan's grass thatched hut. The door, as you notice, it is made out of recycled galvanized iron sheets. It is a simple door that suits the house. The corners, of course, as he has illustrated, were supported using pillars of wider timber. Then there's this step at the forefront, which Regan mentions that he has intentions to eventually plaster the whole house so that it is more stable and looks nice. And so I was not able to get inside, but it is a 2-roomed hut with a resting area and a sleeping area. There is no kitchen or cooking area because he still eats from his father's house, from his mother's pot. And then take note of this resting area, a very simple bench that I actually had a chance to sit on. It was quite stable, I was surprised. Also note the little fence, creativity.
Sasa nilianza na nyasi zingine zizi za mtoni, zile refu refu.
Nimeziona. Ulizitoa hizo wapi?
Huko mtoni huko chini.
And so a bit of translations here and there. Regan mentions that he was able to use 2 types of grasses. The thicker type that you see right here on the side towards the inside of the roof was found from the riverside, which is usually a wetland kind of a reed. And then there's a second one that is finer and more refined that was laid on top of these huge ones. All of them are tied onto the timber that you see on your screen now. And so a bonus for you, if you were able to stay with me to the end of this video, you'll be able to see where this grass was found. And so what you're seeing on your screen right now is a very refined look of a grass thatched hut. The roofing system is made of grass, as we've seen, and the edges are nicely trimmed after they've been put. A thick layer is put first on top of the reeds and then tied on down to the timber, so such that it is strong, cannot be blown away by wind, and there are no leakages when it rains. Ama after maybe how long? 1 week ama 2 weeks?
Ilikuwa 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Ndio imekauka vizuri.
Hiyo bado wewe hujaingia kuishi hapo, unaishi mahali pengine? Kwa baba yako? So wewe ndio ulifikiria ujenge hiyo nyumba yako? Ama baba ndiye alikwambia sasa imefika saa ya kujenga Simba?
Mimi ndiye nilifikiria nikaanza.
Wewe mwenyewe nao wakakusupport. So I asked Regan whose initiative it was that such a Simba should be constructed, and he said it was his own initiative. He felt like it was time to move out of his father's house, despite being very young. 22 is quite young if you ask me, because his counterparts are probably in college or campus somewhere. But he explains that he could not further his education after his national exams at 4th form because of cash constraints. And so he has to fend for himself. Technically, he's a mason. He goes out to find money. And so this brings us to the cost implications of this madhouse. On the flip side, he's a very creative boy. You notice that there's a small fence he's constructed around his madhouse, and this is his resting area. Alafu sasa in total wall plus roof imekukost pesa ngapi? Wewe fanya hesabu yako, wall plus roof total. Mtu akitaka kujenga nyumba kama hiyo itamcost pesa ngapi kama ametumia tu fundi, si yeye mwenyewe amejenga vile wewe umejijengea ukuta?
Kana naona bei ni kama ni
12,000 ndio
$13.
imesimama hivyo. Okay, haya sawa, asante. And so at this point we'll walk down to the grass supplier, and I'd like to translate the last part that this young man has just narrated. He says if he quantifies the total amount of money in Kenyan shillings that has been used to construct this hut from start to finish will be about 12,000 to 13,000 Kenyan shillings. Which with the current exchange rates would translate to $76 to about $80 USD. And take note that he was able to cut costs because he did not let the fundi handle everything. So he was able to make the walls by himself with the help of his friends. So the fundi only worked on the roof. And yes, we have finally made our way to the grass supplier. Congratulations for making it to the end of this video. Thank you for watching it. So we are just going to see where the grass is planted, and in case you are someone who is inspired by this kind of a house, then you know exactly what you need to do. And given that I'm the queen of side hustles, and a tip for you now that you've been able to survive this edition to the end, this is something that someone can do. You can actually plant grass, different types of grasses for different types of purposes. For feeding animals, for example, you can plant grass specifically for roofing such kind of huts. And such kind of huts are nowadays what people use for resting areas. If you've gone to cottages and some of these hotels, you'll find that they have these special cottages that are made out of grass. So you can do this as a side hustle, especially if you have a large piece of land lying idle somewhere. It's either you plant trees or you get into grass farming. Thank you very much for watching. With this, I duly come to the end of this edition. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you. Until the next one, it is bye for now. Let's get interacting in the comment section. Ask me any questions that you feel like. Share your experiences about any of the things that I've mentioned on this edition. Bye.